Welcome to Eye on Africa. I'm Georgia Calvin-Smith, and tonight, medical crew and patients flee gunfire from RSF fighters in Sudan in a raid on the main hospital in North Darfur. The attack by the paramilitary fighters forced the closure of the hospital. Also, as the clock ticks down on South Africa's fraught negotiations between the ANC party and smaller rivals on how best to form a unity government, President Cyril Ramaphosa cancels plans to attend this week's G7 summit in Italy. And I speak to one of Africa's most prominent climate activists about how global warming poses huge risks to a generation of young learners across the continent. But first, medics from international aid group Doctors Without Borders working at the main hospital in the besieged Darfuri city of Fasher say that the facilities had to close after attacks from RSF fighters. The paramilitary group on one side of the brutal conflict engulfing Sudan reportedly raided the site on Sunday. Our regional correspondent Bastien Renouy has been in contact with one resident trapped in the city.
On Saturday, the Rapid Support Forces attacked Fasher's last remaining hospital. According to local sources, most of the patients had already left, knowing that the war was getting closer and closer from the hospital. Several doctors were still inside. According to local sources, many of them were killed, and the Rapid Support Forces looted the medicines remaining in the hospital. This attack also led to the displacement of thousands of people. Fasher is home of hundreds of thousands of internally displaced people. Before the war, it was considered as a safe haven, but there is nowhere to hide anymore for them. Listen to Mohammed. He is a civilian living in Fasher. For security reasons, he has to remain anonymous.
Many of Fasher's population, they are out of door in the streets, and others prepare to escape. So when they escape on their way, our roads are very dangerous. They are looting. Girls and women are raped, and boys and men are died.
Despite the danger, many are trying to escape. To the north, to the border with Libya, they have to cross a desert. It's very dangerous. Or to the south, to the Jebel Mara, a mountain under the control of the Sudanese Liberation Army, a rebel faction, an independent one. It's not allied with the army or with the RSF. I spoke to its leaders this Monday morning. They say that they're happy to welcome anyone coming from Fasher, but they have a major issue. They do not have any more food or medicines. They're calling upon the international community to provide more humanitarian assistance in the region.
Regional correspondent Bastien Renouy there for us. Now, a military plane carrying Malawi's vice president and 9 others has gone missing. Saulos Klaus Chilima was on the plane when it left Lilongwe at 9:17 on Monday morning. It was scheduled to land at Mzuzu Airport, about 370 kilometers north, a little less than an hour later, but disappeared off radar. President Lazarus Chakwera has ordered a search operation and cancelled a scheduled trip whilst abroad, whilst waiting for news. And South Africa's president's cancelled his attendance at the G7 summit due to be held in Italy this week. And instead, Cyril Ramaphosa will be staying at home to keep the pressure up on crucial talks about forming a national unity government. His ANC party lost its parliamentary majority in last month's elections for the first time in 30 years. Negotiations have been fraught, and he is racing against a June 14th deadline for Parliament to elect a president. Anne Wenzel has more.
Currently, 2 parties are saying they could be part of the government of national unity alongside the governing ANC. The 2 parties, the Democratic Alliance, headed by John Steenhuisen, and the IFP or Inkatha Freedom Party. The MK party, headed by former SA President Jacob Zuma, today announced they are trying to get an interdict to stop Parliament from swearing in the new president on Friday. But while the DA has said it would enter into a government of national unity, it says only if that excludes the MK, the PA and the EFF. While the EFF's Julius Malema says the economic freedom fighters will not be part of a government that includes the DA. To move things along, some are calling for a mediator, like Bantu Holomisa, president of the UDM, requesting the intervention of Judge Raymond Zondo, Chief Justice of South Africa.
It's not yet a political crisis because we are talking to each other. That's the beauty about South Africans. And our history will reveal that whenever there is a problem, we always sit around the table and try and find each other. All what you need now is a facilitation for ANC to present their case.
But with mere days to go, it looks like anything could happen, and South Africa is tensely standing by.
And Wenzel there for us in Cape Town. Now, in Eastern Democratic Republic of Congo, the Allied Democratic Forces Group, an affiliate of the Islamic State group, has claimed responsibility for dozens of deaths in separate attacks last week. The conflict with the Islamist group is brutal, but not getting much international attention. Emmett Livingston is in Kinshasa.
Dozens of people in eastern Congo's North Kivu province were massacred last week by fighters from the Allied Democratic Forces Group, or ADF, in a huge flare-up of violence linked to the Islamist militia. The exact death toll from the attacks is unclear. On Monday, Congo's government condemned attacks on Friday, which it said killed 41 people in Beni territory in North Kivu. However, local officials have said the death toll is closer to 60 people. That attack was also only the latest of a string of ADF attacks in the area last week, including one raid on June 4th that left at least 16 people dead. The ADF is the Central African affiliate of the Islamic State group. It is one of Eastern Congo's deadliest militias and is notorious for its brutal tactics, including kidnapping children to enlist them as fighters. International attention to the ADF has lessened since the outbreak of the M23 rebellion, which is backed by Rwanda, in late 2021. But the ADF conflict appears to be worsening, with a joint Congolese-Ugandan military operation against the group making little headway. Congolese authorities have been accused of doing too little. Lucha, a Congolese activist movement, said that the ADF is carrying out massacres in what it called total indifference.
Well, for the African Union, 2024 is the year of education. But for too many places on the continent, access to learning has become fraught and uncertain. Beyond the disruption caused by political violence or armed conflict, the effects of climate change are also taking their toll on children's education. This includes the destruction of learning infrastructure, community displacement, even the hit families' income can take because of agricultural damage caused by floods or drought. Well, for looking at this more closely, I'm now joined by the new climate champion for the Education Cannot Wait Fund, Nigeria's Adenike Oladosu. Adenike, thanks so much for making the time to speak to me. First of all, for you, what are the factors that make climate change's impact particularly damaging to educational attainment in Africa?
Thank you so very much. The climate crisis is not a single crisis. It's from the flood, the drought, heat wave, and several other crises. And so once there is flood, it definitely used to affect access to education because schools are also affected or infrastructure destroyed. At the same time, when there's intense heat wave or rising temperature, it's also going to affect the ability of the student to be able to learn. And so different kind of climate crises around the world, in Africa, Asia, all is affecting access to education, displacing children, boys and girls, and making them vulnerable to be at the center of the climate crisis. And that is why we need more educational approach in order for us to solve the climate crisis.
So what can you do about it? What role do climate champions like yourself play in raising awareness and deepening understanding about this intersection between climate change and educational attainment in Africa?
Is to keep spearheading movements, mobilizing people for climate action, because that is one of the ways at which we could get as many people as possible to understand the urgency and the life-threatening issue of the climate crisis, the rise in sea level, the increase in temperature and the rest, and why we are also urging world leaders to strongly position education at the center of global climate agenda, and also to keep mobilizing people for climate justice. And so we need as many people as possible to see climate education or connect climate education into climate action or climate action into climate education, two sides of the same coin.
And so how do you tackle this? What do you think needs to happen at a political level and at the grassroots level to give more young people on the continent access to quality education?
Yes, I heard that we use the Education Cannot Wait global campaign of Right Here, Right Now to be able to mobilize the necessary fund investment that is needed for us to be able to see that young people have access to education, boys and girls that are also affected by this crisis, through the fact that we need more climate resilience infrastructures. We need learning equipment or tools, technology that could help to enhance learning capacity. At the same time, disaster risk reduction, and also different kind of initiative like safe school initiative that could enhance safety for children that are in school, and also to be able to initiate mental health facility to be for students to be able to understand, or children around the world to be able to build a world that is sustainable together, and also school feeding initiative so that it could enable the well-being of the children while they are at school. And so many things can be put together through the Right Here, Right Now campaign that is ongoing to urge more people to see climate education or to connect the dots between climate and education.
Thank you so much. Adenike Oladosu there, the new climate champion for the Education Cannot Wait Fund. That, though, is all we have time for Eye on Africa for now. Thanks for joining us, though. Do so again if you can. Till then, take care.